First of all, start by appreciating your coming here as I give this brief. I would just like to indicate that I'm accompanied by my lawyer, Mr. Tebogo Tladi, because some of the issues we may be touching on today may invariably impinge on ongoing court cases in Botswana. And in that regard, we have to be conscious of some of the details we may give to you, which may undermine the sub judice principle. I had been asked to come and brief you. I too had also been keen to come and do so, based on a press statement that I gave a couple of days ago back in Botswana. I will be brief as I outline it because I don't know how much you would have heard and I wouldn't want to be repetitive. So I'll just give you a brief outline and then you would be free to ask questions. Essentially, the issue is about the fact that the government of Botswana has decided to spin a web of lies and deceit against me and others back home, and including some South African citizens. And because it involves South African citizens, I thought it would be important for me to come here and to assure you that they are innocent of those allegations which have been leveled against them, as indeed we are. And the only reason why we find ourselves in this situation is because of me. And these people are perceived to be close associates of mine. And because I took the decision to resign from the Botswana Democratic Party, there is a drive. They are motivated to get back at me, to fix me, in other words, to discredit me and my reputation as a result. So we are going to expose this deceit, the lies, the fraud, the criminality that they have embarked upon. Already, I'm happy to say, evidence has emerged clearly indicating that some of those allegations are false. And we have engaged a team overseas to continue with these investigations, to follow up and give us a report, which will probably take a couple of months. And that report we will make public so that everybody knows that government-sponsored fraud, fabricated evidence, whereupon we have agreed with our lawyers, who we have brought together as a team, to work on suing the Botswana government for defamation. And then we will also bring criminal charges against those individuals from top to bottom in the government of Botswana who are implicated in it. And of course, unfortunately, this is going to bring about quite serious, severe, what I described as the other day in Botswana as a crash landing for our country. Is going to do a lot of damage to our reputation. But I think it needs to be done in order to ensure that this kind of criminality never is repeated again to anybody, whether they are citizens of our country or citizens of a friendly neighboring state. And just by way of example, I have here before me, after I gave that press conference in Botswana, and you are media people, and I know here in South Africa you have got some excellent investigative journalists. After that press conference in Botswana, in order to again discredit me, they issued on social media the following. And they tried to make it, the way they couch their words, they tried to make it like with the affidavit. They tried to make it look credible, where they said that, here it says, President Masisi attended a summit in Cape Town with President Cyril Ramaphosa, invited him for dinner. And they said other people who were there were Bell Pottinger, Johan Rupert, Patrice Motsepe, Jeff Radebe. Have you seen this? Okay. Pravin Gordon, Ray Jonas, and apparently collectively referred to as Stellenbosch. And the thing was around the fact that they knew that the mining contract between De Beers and the Botswana government was coming to an end at some time in 2018, because this thing was happening before. And they said that Masisi shouldn't renew it with these people because they've grown arrogant. And they made a proposal to him that Botswana must partner with them instead. And the name Stellenbosch comes in here. And then here they claim that Masisi said he would go back and look into their proposal, but ended up rejecting their proposal. And what then happened was that Stellenbosch, meaning these people, didn't take lightly to that rejection. And they came up with a plan to undermine and ultimately remove him as soon as possible. And they say here, President Ramaphosa even arranged for my trip to the Dalai Lama in India, knowing that the Botswana government would be against it. And it was a plan to pit Botswana against their old-time friend, China. And then it goes on to say that it is not surprising that a member of Stellenbosch, Bridget Motsepe, was deployed to go and buy a Congress, a BDP Congress in Botswana. And for Paul O'Sullivan to concoct fake evidence against Botswana elections and the last meeting discussing regime change program. So this came out just in the last couple of days. So what we are seeing in our country is this kind of fabrication, and we know where it comes from, targeting us and other people who are in the opposition. And we have now seen ourselves descend and decline in terms of the high democratic credentials we used to enjoy on this continent and generally the international community. So let me stop there thus far and allow for any questions that you may have on this or maybe some other relevant issues.
So a few weeks ago, one of the people who were associated with the plot that was mentioned in the Botswana media and also in the allegations made by the Botswana government, Bridget Motsepe, when she came back to South Africa, she alluded to a plot by the Botswana government which involves discrediting politicians and their associates, and then at some point removing them, by means of killing them or, any other means. I don't know if you've heard of this conspiracy that, the Botswana government has, some kind of, underground operation where they conduct political espionage against their targets, and whether you're worried that you're one of those targets.
Well, I am, because I see it almost on a daily basis. I know for a fact that members of the intelligence in Botswana follow me around. When like during the election campaign, they were following around. I even took pictures of those who were following me around, because my lawyers had advised that unless they could explain that I was a security threat, my privacy was being undermined, and illegally so, and that I should take pictures and bring it up and show them in case we wanted to take the matter to court. So indeed, that happens. I'm aware that there are people who are planted to report on who I see and who I meet. I know in one particular instance, a month or so before the elections, I went to see somebody in some other village away from our capital. And soon after I had visited them, one of the members of the intelligence went in to ask that person what I was doing there and what we had spoken about. Because that person phoned me after that and said to me, you know what just happened? Someone walked in here after you, identified himself as a member of the intelligence. I wanted to know what you were doing here and what we had spoken about. I mean, that is just totally unacceptable. And it's none of their business what we had gone and spoken about. There was an allegation, and I referred to that came out in social media, but I was informed about it, that there were plans afoot to stage a kind of an arrest, that I would be arrested by members of the army, and that during that arrest I would be shot under the guise that I had resisted arrest. So that came out, and that did the social media rounds at the time. But I never saw any rebuff that came from the government, because usually when there would be such an outrageous allegation, they would rebuff as they've done in the past. But this time it was dead quiet. So one doesn't know whether, maybe fortunately it came out on social media that put an end to that plan because it had been found out. And when you just see what's happened to leaders of the opposition, people have been intimidated, people have been arrested. This particular issue that I've just referred to on these allegations, where is it headed? Because those are allegations for which you could be arrested and locked up for. And therefore, and they've gone to the extent of fabricating evidence in order to do that. And we have discovered it and we found them out. And we've been able to turn the tables on them by showing that those allegations are false. But what is worrying, that a government, especially in a democracy like ours, would stoop so low and resort to those kind of tactics. That is what is very worrying. And that's where we're heading right now in Botswana.
Mr. President, you spoke about crash landing. What does that mean? I mean, it's quite...
Maybe it's because I'm a pilot.
It's quite scary because as citizens of the region, you all want to see all member states being very, very stable. And you as a former head of state and a former general, it's quite scary when it comes from you.
Let me explain what I mean by crash landing. I mean it in the context of what is going to be revealed when the report comes out by those investigators who are doing the report. As you can imagine, they come and they say, here was an affidavit saying that billions of bula was taken from the central bank. When that is proven, as it's going to be, that it's false, that is going to be very serious. When it comes out that a sitting government tried to paint its central bank as being criminal, a central bank which has enjoyed up until now a very high reputation worldwide, not just on the continent, but worldwide, that the Central Bank of Botswana is capable of opening up offshore accounts for a president in a criminal manner, that is going to be a crash landing when the truth comes out. So these accounts which were said to be opened up here in South Africa, it has already come out that that is false. That is a crash landing. So how they're going to wriggle out of it, I don't know. Secondly, the crash landing comes from the fact that we are going to sue them. We have all agreed with our lawyers, we are going to sue the government. And I would imagine our lawyers will advise, but this amount, the huge wrong that has been done us and our reputations, what has motivated them to discredit us to that extent, to go and mislead a court at home? I don't think the amounts that are going to be claimed to redress this are going to be small. And if we are successful, in suing them, it's going to be paid from public funds. But why should public funds be used to pay for an illegality committed by the government? But that's how it works. So that's going to be a huge scandal, that public funds are going to have to be paid. And lastly, we are going to be laying criminal charges against those people implicated from top to bottom in this scam. And if those prosecutions are successful, and very senior people in the Botswana government are going to be charged for such criminality, that is also going to rock the boat in a big way. So that's the crash landing I'm talking about. I'm liking it to a crash landing. It's going to be a big disaster.
Mr. President, you are saying this from another sovereign country. Should we not be worried that you are probably exacerbating a situation or relations between the two countries? Because in the past we've seen South Africa send a minister and even a chairperson of the governing party to go and normalize relations with Botswana. Are you not launching an attack on your government from another country?
No, I don't think so, because don't forget who started the attack of launching attacks on other countries. Who are the other people who are implicated in this affidavit? It's a government entity who put out an affidavit about people in South Africa. And we have to put that right. So they are the ones who have brought about a situation where one has to come into South Africa to give you that assurance. And I think I am doing that as part of the relation building that was set up during my time and done by my predecessors between Botswana and South Africa to say, your citizens are not guilty of what they are being accused of. So I think I'm actually contributing to that. So, and it has already been here. I mean, one of your citizens implicated, my Bridget Motsepe, has already given briefings to the media about this situation. And like I said, we have decided to come together as a team to fight this scam. So that's why you see me here, and you may see me here again.
Mr. President, during the course of the elections, you supported obviously the opposition. So now, talking in the context of the post-election, what does the future hold for you? Or do you ever regret leaving the BDP? And also Botswana, it's only cited as a very shining example of democracy in Africa. So do you think with all the shenanigans going on, this will have a knock on the reputation of the country?
Of course, having been the leader of the BDP myself, my father having been the leader of the BDP and was one of its founders, it caused me great distress to leave the BDP. I think anybody who has been in politics, who has made the home of a particular, made a party their home, would be in distress leaving your family. But I have to take comfort in the fact that when I was in the BDP, what did we stand for as an organization? It's enshrined in our constitution. And if the current leadership go ahead and violate those principles and morals that we believed in, I'm not just going to say, I will be born and I will die in the BDP at any cost. The time has to come, you have to stand up and say, no, this is not what we're about as the BDP. I therefore don't want to be associated anymore with a party which is abandoning the very democratic principles for so many years we have set up. So when you come to the reputation, yes, currently we are going through a difficult period. But I think it's worth it, at the end of the day, because if we can arrest this before it gets worse and restore that reputation that we once had, then surely it's the good. Because you could just stand back and do nothing and just see the situation continue to get worse. And then we will regret sometime in the future that we didn't say anything about it. When we had an opportunity to arrest it, we didn't. So before it gets to that stage, now is the time to be heard and speak out and try to put the situation back to what it was before.
I have to call it an end because otherwise we're not going to, we've got to still do Kareem's one-on-one, so we need to call it to an end.
Okay?
And if you've got a short one.
Yeah, very short. It's like one sentence.
It's already over.
Just one sentence.
No one
Do you have faith in the Botswana court system at the moment, in the criminal justice system, if you feel that you're being attacked by a government that oversees the very same system?
You know, like I spoke about the Bank of Botswana being an icon for our country, the reputation it had acquired on its own merits, and how it contributed to the prudent financial and economic management of our country. Our courts, likewise, have done us proud over the years. And I have got no reason to believe that those fine men and women who are in our judiciary, dispensing justice as they have been doing for many years, are going to deviate from that course. So I'm very confident that they will stay that course. Yeah.
On a lighter note, viewers and followers are saying...
Who?
I'm saying on a lighter note, on social media, people are following this, and they
Uh-huh.
want to know whether you have any advice for us on the load shedding.
You know, that's a very good question. I do, actually. I do. If I was a president still, I would decline to answer because it would look like I'm interfering in your affairs. But, you know, I have every confidence that President Ramaphosa is determined to tackle the problem that South Africa is facing with its electricity, its power generation. We follow very closely, you know, even if we are not in government, what's happening here in this regard. When I was in office, all I can say was what the direction I was hoping to take with generation in Botswana. I'm not saying this is what South Africa should follow. And that was to split your options for generation. Don't put all your eggs in one basket like with coal, for example. Apart from the issue of emissions, which is a very, very topical issue these days, we hear constantly today about how harmful emissions are affecting the climate. But even just from a strategic point of view, you shouldn't do that. So you should diversify and have a range of options for generation. Renewable energy, you know, through solar, for example. I know here in South Africa you had already embarked upon nuclear as well. That is an option that other countries have used to get away from coal. But that also has its own challenges and controversies. But certainly you need to have a mix. Secondly, is not to put all your eggs in one basket, similarly with those who provide the power. So have a number of power producers. ESCOM, you know, are there, and they will continue to be there into the future. Same in Botswana, we have the Botswana Power Corporation. And we often used to talk about we need to, but we are a much smaller economy than South Africa. But we need to also in future open up to IPPs and, you know, in our country and have a range of power producers if they can assure us that the fees that they charge for electricity, they're not just going to go through the roof and then you don't have control over that. So I think that type of scenario for Botswana would work. I don't know if it would work for South Africa.
Thank you, everybody.